what made you get into politics?
Oh, wow.
What started it, and what made you get into it?
All right, that's a hell of a question. Thanks for the call. And anyone else want to jump in? The lines are open. Um, I'm gonna be honest with you. I sat in class one day in college, and I was like, "What the hell am I gonna do with my life?" I said, "Let me see if I can make a 30-year plan to get my ass to the White House." And so I made up this plan. And it was just funny, right? I'm just sitting in computer class, in IT class, and I'm supposed to be like, this is literally one of my first thoughts of getting involved in politics. It was just like kind of a spur of the moment thing. I'm bored and I'm daydreaming. And then because really what it was, who was the governor of Florida at the time? I think Jeb Bush might have still been governor. And I'm like, if and George Bush was the new president at the time, I'm like, if that buffoon could become the president of the United States, shit, anybody could become president of the United States. So I'm sitting in class, IT class, supposed to be doing IT stuff, and I'm sitting there daydreaming about getting, drawing a map. Like, what's a map that someone could take, me or anyone could take to the White House? Now, in terms of when did I actually get involved sincerely, it was a fight in around 2004 when George W. Bush was trying to pass. I don't know if it was get a constitutional amendment or legislation. I can't remember the context, but the motivation behind it was to define the definition of marriage as being between a man and a woman. And and in spite of everything that we had been fighting against George Bush about, I was amazed that in church that Sunday, because I still went to church back then, that Sunday, here's my black pastor. Actually, I was at a visiting church, so it was a different pastor. It was a black pastor who was talking about how important it was for us to support the president on this issue. And there was instant dissonance in my brain. I'm like, wait a minute. There's so many things that we've been fighting against George W. Bush on for the last 4 years. And now this pastor's changed his tune. And now he's like, we have to get behind him and support blah, 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 blah. And so I start digging in because anytime I have dissonance in my brain, I got to find a resolution. I started digging in and I started listening to both sides of the argument. I started listening to just a lot of different voices, reading a whole lot of things over the next 3 or 4 weeks. But then I found myself listening to Fox News and MSNBC, like back to back to back, like flipping between the channels back to back to back. And the narrative on MSNBC about the same exact issue was so dramatically different than what was being said on the right. But at that time, in my mind, I'm like, both sides were making good arguments or valid arguments. And as soon as I said that, I'm like, nope, there's some dissonance there. That doesn't make sense. They can't both be right about something that they're so diametrically opposed to one another. Something's wrong. And so what I did was I started digging in for myself, start researching the topics for myself. And then I start researching the topics for myself. I start seeing through the bullshit. I start seeing the lies, predominantly seeing them from the right originally. And then quickly I start seeing the lies from the left, start seeing that, the spin, start seeing how people start falling into tropes, falling into political party, sportsmanship. It all, just from that single issue of gay marriage, it started exposing a whole lot of things. It took me on a very, very, very long journey, going backwards, right, to some of the classical thinkers, political philosophy thinkers throughout history. I remember there was like a 2-year period that I didn't even have a television in my townhome. I just left the television in the garage and I just sat at home, and instead of listening to anyone on television, I started reading some of the classical thinkers on every single issue that was relevant to their day, all their economic arguments, and just start formulating my own worldview from this starting point of cognitive dissonance that came because of my gullibleness. I was gullible, and I would listen to one channel and it made sense, listen to the other channel saying something exactly opposite and it made sense, and I was like, no, that doesn't work for me. I have to find some resolution, and I found it. But anyway, that's my story. Let's take the next caller.